Let's talk about some financial fundamentals, and let's use this stack of baby toys because, let's admit it, who doesn't like playing with baby toys, especially if they stack like this? This is what your ideal financial picture should look like. Let's talk about how to stack this correctly, and then let's talk about what most Americans are doing with their finances. This represents the market and your economy. The very first thing that you should have in your financial picture is protection, and that should be the big ring on the bottom. This is ideal because if something goes wrong up here, then you drop down to your level of protection and everything's all right. Once you have your protection in place, then it's time to put on the green ring. And your green ring represents a good savings plan that will help you keep more of the money you make. That comes next. And once you have those, it's time to talk about debt management. Now, I didn't say this is pay off all your debt or get out of debt or become debt-free, because there's two types of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Bad debt is going to be an expense to you every month. It's going to decrease your cash flow, and it's not going to give you any tax-preferred treatment. Good debt, on the other hand, is going to allow you to increase your cash flow, and it may even give you preferred tax treatment. So, if you're somebody who can manage debt, this ring represents keeping good debt and paying off bad debt. Now, there's a quick word here. I met a guy the other day who used to be in a lot of credit card debt. He got his act together, he paid off all his credit card debt, and now he only uses a debit card. Now, I mentioned to him, I said, now you know you could use a credit card and pay it off every month, and they would give you cash back on your purchases, which is like increasing your rate of return. And he said, I'm afraid to do it. I've been in credit card debt again, and I'm afraid if I have a credit card, that's where I'll end up again. Well, good for him for knowing his limitations. If that's you, and somebody that debt would manage you if you let it get a hold, there is no good debt for you. And so managing debt for you would be paying off your debt or becoming debt-free. That comes next. And now, once you have all three of these fundamentals in place, you can look at some investments because you can afford to take a little bit of risk. This right here is investment. It represents a little bit of risk, because with every investment, you have 100% chance of losing everything. Now, maybe this is a more conservative investment, so your risk of loss is less and your chance of gain is better. And that's the ideal investment to start with. You don't want to start with a high risk and put a lot of money into it because you could end up losing it all pretty quickly. You could lose it here too, but the chance isn't quite as great. And then, if you've ever read Nassim Taleb's book, I hope I'm saying his name right, entitled The Black Swan, you'll be familiar with the concept that every once in a while, out of nowhere, something nobody predicts comes along, and that may be a big return in a high-risk investment. That's called a black swan. And so if you want to add some high-risk investment on here to increase your chances of seeing a black swan in your portfolio, now is the time to add it. You can see this is kind of flashy. Keep it small, but there's a chance you could make it big. If you stack things this way, this is ideal because the market is not stable. But if you're stacked like this, you can weather the ups and downs, no problem. Now let's talk about what most of America does when they're setting up their finances. They go for the shiny object. They make their money and they go out, they want a chance of a high return. They don't really think about the risk of loss too much, so they go for whatever's shiny, and that's what they start their foundation on. Well, this probably doesn't go as well as they had hoped. They don't see that big return immediately. Or maybe they're losing some of their principal and they think, I better go a little more conservative on my investment. So they go out and they find a more conservative investment, and they add that to here. Then their reasoning is that these investments will return enough that they will yield a payment where I can take care of my debt. I can manage my debt, pay off my bad debt, manage my good debt. And so they add the debt management ring on top of there. Then they say, once my debt's taken care of, then I'll have something extra to save. And so they add their savings ring on top of that. And then finally, once they have this all stacked up, they go, better protect it. And so they add protection on top, assuming that it's not too late, because they may have become too old or they may have become sick and they're uninsurable. Well, there's one problem with this: market's not stable. And so now, when it becomes unstable, what was the first thing to go? Protection and savings. All you're left with is your debt and your investments, assuming you have anything left in them. Now, this is not a pretty picture, because once this is gone, it's very hard to get back. And once you've used up all your savings, what do you do after that? The best way to do this is to do things the right way from the very beginning. Start with protection. Add a good savings plan that helps you keep more of the money you make. Manage your debt. Pay off your bad debt. Make your good debt work for you. Then and only then, you can take on a little risk and chance of reward by adding investment. And if you like, go ahead and add a higher risk investment where there's a chance of a black swan coming along in your lifetime. If you want to know more about the black swan, my brother John's going to be doing a video on that in July. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you subscribe so you can catch the video on the black swan. We'll see you later.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Also click the subscribe button to enjoy the latest content and newest videos on the channel.